Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Illuminate Flexible Assessment PD. Uh, my name is Tony Bedella, and I have Mary Noga, which probably everybody in the room knows Mary. She's
Hi,
amazing.
everyone. Not sure.
She was my very first day in Clovis Unified 20 years ago. Mary was the person leading some PD then, so it's nice to be doing that in reverse now. It's me leading the PD, and she gets to help me out. So, Mary, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. So a little bit about me. I opened Clovis East back in 2000, worked there for a few years, and then my wife and I moved up to Sierra Unified School District, where I taught for another 12 years, went over to Illuminate for 5 years, and then Illuminate did some mergers, and I was out running a soccer camp because I run the girls soccer program at East, and I got the call that they were letting me go. So now this is my second year back in Clovis, super excited to be here. And the flexible assessment and live proctoring are two things of the system that I just think get overlooked that I really love in there, especially during this pandemic right now where we're trying to do some distance learning. I think both of those tools will be really handy. What's great about flexible assessment, and I'll go into that in a moment, is the ability to not have to reinvent the wheel and take some of the existing paper tests that you have or digital copies of tests that you already have and make them into an assessment that you could give online through the kids on their devices. A phone will work, Chromebook, Mac, tablet, whatever. As long as it has a web browser, they can do an assessment in this way. And so we'll dive right in. As you can see, the link to the slide deck is right there on the bottom. I highly recommend you get this. It's a very short slide deck, but there is a link to a document, and I'll throw that up as well. That is extremely in depth. I still consult for Illuminate on the side, and this is the document we use, and it's got everything in there. It lays it all out. It's about 17 pages long, so sorry about that, but it's really, really good and will answer all of the questions that you might have after this training. Just because of the amount of people in here and the amount of time, I've only got an hour. It's probably not going to be easy for you to follow along as we're doing it. Trying to make your own. It might just be a thing where you kind of watch me drive and show some things, and you guys ask questions along the way, and I can answer those, and then you refer back to what's in here. So I'm going to go ahead and push things forward here. And Mary, will you throw the link in the chat again for me? Okay, so just a couple things here, and I'm sure now that this is day 2, everybody's already done this, was make sure your name matches your ID badge. And I think there's been a little bit of a misconception there too, is you only have to have your name. You don't have to have your ID number as well in your name. That's what Sherry said in my one that I ran yesterday. So you can just have your name in there, and that should be fine for attendance purposes. And here's how to walk through that. And sorry, my daughter's playing Fortnite in her room, and if she screams or yells during the presentation, not much I could do about it. All right, so just a few things. Grab a drink. The biggest thing is if you're experiencing lag, turn off your stream or hide your virtual background. That one needs a lot of resources. Mute yourself. And then place questions in chat. Mary's going to monitor that like crazy for me and stop me along the way. I am Italian, so I get going really fast. Even though I'm doing a webinar, my hands are going to kind of be all over the place. I just can't help it. But here we go. So if you click on this link right here, and this is pretty much the last slide in the slide deck. If you click on this link right here, it will actually take you to the in-depth training guide that we really use. And I mean, it's got everything under the sun for you on how to create a flexible assessment. And I'm not going to go through page by page. I'm going to walk through. I'm going to let you get to see what it looks like on the student side first, so you know, hey, what's going on, all that kind of fun stuff. But I mean, it really does a good job of just laying every little nook and cranny out for flexible assessments. Okay, and if you haven't been there or done this, I'm going to put up a poll here right now just to kind of see where we're at. But this document is going to be your bread and butter moving forward with this. You can print it out or just download the document, have it when you need it, and you should be good to go on figuring out how to do some of this. And then my email is also on the slide deck on this last page if you want to get back in touch with me. And I can throw that in the chat later as well. All right, so a quick poll here. 2 questions. Number 1, are you familiar with building an Illuminate flexible assessment? There's your 3 choices. And question number 2, I'm just trying to see a spread of what we have for participants today. Yes, I could run this training person. Okay, so some of you have some experience, somebody's a superstar at it, and most of you haven't seen it before, and we're mostly primary. Okay, so I will kind of dive into this. So if you're not sure, what this is, you haven't really seen it very much, basically what it is, oops. Sorry, there we go. Is basically it's taking, my Zoom controls are, of course, in my way right now. There we go. It's basically taking this. So if I had a PDF version of a test or a Google Doc of a test that I wanted to use, or even a paper pencil test that I've given in the past, and I wanted to get this into an online format, this is what it does. Now, I know that many of you have been exploring, taking something like this and then putting it as a background on a Google slide and then putting in text boxes and all this it's a lot of work, and it turns out great. But if you're looking for another option, this is very similar to that, in the fact that you can do a lot of those same things. It's just going to look a little bit different and feel a little bit different, but the end product will still be the same, where kids can get in and do some of these things. Now, I know when we think about Illuminate in the district, it's the benchmark spot. That's where we take all of our benchmarks, and you can use it in a formative way. You can use it as an assignment type way. And if you come to my live proctoring session, you can see a little bit more of how you can utilize real-time data with your students and things like that. But the idea is to take this and make it into something that the kids can interact with online, or build it as another paper pencil test. So when we come back into the classroom, you can convert these to be used with our with the Illuminate bubble sheets, and then you can scan those in. If you have old paper pencil tests and you're like, okay, how do I turn that into a PDF? All of our printers at school have the ability to scan and then email a PDF back to us. So you just got to figure out how to do that. Okay, renaming. Okay, so, but this is what the idea is. Now let me show you what it looks like from a kid's end. So if I come in here, I've got my buddy Sirius Black here, and I'm going to become him as a student, so you can see what this looks like on the student side. Okay, so just like any other Illuminate test, you'll come in here, that'll say begin test instead of continue test, but you can see that here's that exact same PDF I was showing a moment ago. And so the test flows up and down, and it's more along the lines of like the reading test that the kids will take at the state level. And so you can see that the test scrolls up and down, and then on the right is an answer document that also scrolls up and down. If you look and we just try to match some of this up, you can see that question number 1 is 4 answer choices. And so the kids have to be able to look here and then come over here and, put in the answer. So let's say that Sirius says it's B. And so it automatically saves and does all that fun stuff. Then I can come over to question number 2. This is a multiple select question. And when you build that into the system, it's super easy to get multiple select in with this. It will automatically turn this into the check boxes like it does on the state test as well. If it's not something you're sharing with your students, this is a good little trick for kiddos, especially our younger ones, is the difference between single select and state, or a multiple select, is the check boxes and the radials. If you look at question number 3 is an explicit constructed response. So this one I can come in and click those 3 right there. Question number 3 is an explicit constructed response, which basically means that if the answer is 3x plus 4, or in this case, the answer is 14, and I put that 14 in there, that's taking question number 3 with Savannah there, working it all out on probably a separate piece of paper, and then coming over here and putting it in. This will automatically grade for us. So I've seen Spanish teachers use this. I've seen 3rd grade teachers over at ORAS use this for their spelling tests. you know, anything that's a one answer or two-word answer, something that's very specific, you can do this. And you can also put in the word bags here if you've programmed that in. And I'll talk about what that means here, but you can do things like this, but it's going to look directly at that and then grade it for you depending on what the student's response is. And then finally, question number 4, we come over here and, you know, this is more along the lines of a constructed response, maybe a performance task style question to where you want a little bit more out of it. You can go ahead and you can put this in as well. And I forgot to enable the option, but I'll go back and show you. But you can also have an equation editor that would allow students to put in math symbols and things like that, like, for example, like if they were taking a state test and they needed to do a math equation. But you can come in here. If this was an essay question that you wanted to do on a writing prompt, you could definitely do that here. If you wanted more room as a student, you just teach your kiddos to click on the 4 diagonal arrows and that'll take it full screen. And now a student could come in here and start to type in their essay. All they've got to do is click that button again and it shrinks it back down. And then finally, you have the ability, like in the case of this last question here, to where this is a 2-part question. And so basically all I did was tell it, okay, hey, for 5A, look here for part A, and then for 5B, you know, I still have 5B and I want to look here and add that in there. The only spot where you want to be a little bit careful is some of you are, if you're an English teacher, already thinking, ooh, I could do multiple rubrics. You can't necessarily do multiple rubrics because for question number 4, it's got 1 rubric attached to it, and that's where you'll see their actual writing. If you were to do a question 4A for writing conventions, 4B for elaboration and evidence, and then 1 for, I think it's CC is the other one, then it's going to only show the essay on that very first one, and you lose track of that from there. But this is the power that you have with this. Go ahead.
Tony, one of my former favorite students, Stephanie, has a question. And it's true. Talk to us about the math and the grading. For example, she said, what if you had 3x plus 4? Do the spaces matter? You know,
yes, they do. So I'll go over it more in depth when I get into how to build one of these, but yes, they do. And so you have to put, like I always say, you got to put a programmer hat on, and you have to think about, hey, how are my kids going to answer this? You know, for example, for this one, like here, if this is all these are 4th grade standards, right? And so a student may just put 14 in there. And so if you program that in as okay, I want to give them credit for 14, then that's one of your choices. But if you also know that some of the kids are going to put the word bags in there, then you would program that in as well. And basically the system goes through like an Excel document on the back end, and it's just checking their answer against all the answer choices that it's put in. And if one of those is there, then it just marks it off and gives them the point or the 2 points, however you want to build it. And then if it's not, then it starts to take those points away. So you really are in charge of everything that you would accept as an answer. Now, question number 4.
I think that answered Sheila's question too. You have to be very specific.
Yes, you're the programmer basically, and once you do it, it's great. And the other good news is let's say the kids are amazing, right? And especially as we're looking at with iReady and them kind of coming up with things sometimes that may not be the way we taught it, but they still get to the correct answer. If a kid comes up with something that you didn't initially put in, that's correct. You can always go back, add that into your answer document, and then it would automatically go back and rescore that and fix any kids that had that one in there. So it does back update as well. So you have that ability to kind of fix some of those things. For question number 4, though, you will have to go in and grade these, and I'll show you where that's done. It's pretty easy to do. But I mean, this is basically what it is in a nutshell. Is I just need to get my PDF document in here. You can do Word documents as well. It's just sometimes Word documents get a little bit funky they might get moved around a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen that, to where you have a Word document, you upload it into something else, and now things have moved around. At least with a PDF, it's locked down and it's not going to move. There is the ability to do right from a Google Doc now, so that's kind of nice. But I'll show you that as well. But any other questions on at least what this looks like right now? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit review and finish test here. There we go. Yeah, we're going to finish. Oh, I had some unanswered questions. Oh, well. Okay, so now let's kind of get into how to build one of these. So I'm going to come back into my Illuminate instance here, and I'm in a demo account, so you may see some things that we don't have in the CUSD instance of Illuminate. In particular, this one right here, Post to Google Classroom, we don't have that option yet. But I will show you guys now how to build one of these out. So if I click my home button here and I'm in Illuminate, and I get in here to where all of my tiles are at, and you can make your own tiles, guys. You can do a lot of different things that most of you probably didn't know you could do. Last year, CUSD started to push those tiles out. I was like, hey, you can put tiles out for anybody in the district, things like that. And so now we're doing some of that to make things a little bit easier. But I'm going to come in, and on your landing page, you should have a tile now called Create Flexible Assessment. If you don't, that's okay. You can come over here to the assessment side on the left, click that tab out, and now you could hit Create an Assessment here. And now you'll get these options that pop up, and we want to click on Flexible. The other way you could do it, and for whatever reason right now they're working on fixing it, is the Create an Assessment tile is kind of bugged. And so I don't know why it's doing that. It won't do anything when I click on it. So I've been just having to come over here and come to Assessments and then click on Create an Assessment and then click Flexible Assessment. Now, what's really cool about this is most of you probably built a hybrid assessment in the past, and that was like a Franken test, you know, where it started out one thing, then they added more onto it, and they added more onto it, and it was just like this weird navigation to get a test completed. This one is much easier. Everything kind of stays on one page, and it kind of guides you from one thing to the next pretty easy. So right here, all I have to do is put in my title. And one of the things I'm a big proponent of, guys, is if you're making assessments, like if you're like in your fourth grade pod at your school and you're like, okay, I'm going to do all the math stuff, you're going to do all the ELA stuff, you're going to do all the science stuff like that. One of the most important things I can tell you guys is come up with a common naming convention. That way it's easy to find the stuff that you're building. If I name my test one way, Mary names her test another way, Kelly names her test another way, then we're going to be in trouble because we're not going to be able to find anything. And then you're going to hate Illuminate. And it's really not Illuminate's fault that we didn't get ourselves organized from the get-go. Okay. So put in a common naming convention, and I'll show you why this helps. So here's my CUSD, and I'm just going to do flexible PD 2021. And this is my second time I'm building this test. And so, oops. Now all I have to do is hit create. Pretty simple, nothing magical there, nice and simple. And so right now it's going to come in and it's going to ask me how many questions that I want to do, and I can do like a mass add right now. So if I come back to my original PDF document, I can come in here and I could say, okay, so I've got 1 multiple choice, 2 multiple choice, 3, 4 multiple choice, because I'm going to count 5A and 5B as 2. Okay, 2 different questions. So now I've got 4 multiple choice. I've got 1 explicit constructed response, which is question number 3, and 1 constructed response, which is question number 4. And so I can come back to this now, and I can say, okay, I've got 4 multiple choice. I can add another, and now I've got 1, and I'm going to hit this drop down here, and I'm going to say I've got 1 constructed response. I'm going to hit add another, and now I'm going to say I've got 1 explicit constructed response. Difference between constructed response and explicit constructed response is the CR EXP grades for you, and it's the short answer one. The CR one is where it makes the writing prompt box for students to go in and type stuff in. And now all I've got to do is hit add 6. And then all 6 of those are going to pop in there. Okay. So from here now, I can go in and I can start to rearrange some things. So I know that question number 3 is my explicit constructed response. So all I have to do is grab the little 6 dots here on the left, and it turns into a crosshair, drag it up, and now it's right there. I can grab this one, drag it up there, because that's question number 4, and I can come in here, and I'm just going to say, all right, this is 5A, and this is 5B. Unfortunately, if you add more questions on, it doesn't necessarily put number 6 as the next one. Once you start doing 5A, 5B, it won't automatically renumber things. That's something I've asked the devs at Illuminate to really kind of start to bring back and fix and add in, that we have that ability, because you can do that on the hybrid, but you can't do that on the flexible yet. So from here now, any questions, Mary, before I keep going? Go ahead.
Yes. how about, can you add the equation editor to both constructed response and explicit constructed response?
No, and this is something I ask the lead developer at Illuminate. It's our ongoing joke is, can I get the equation editor for explicit constructed response? And the answer is no currently. You can get it for constructed response, but you don't add it here. You add it when you build your online testing roster. And I'll show you guys where that's at before we're done today. So it's just one of those things. I think they kept running into problems with how to integrate that into the system for whatever reason when they were trying to roll this out. With the new item bank that is out now, there is the ability to build math equation response type questions. They just haven't added it to flexible, and I wish they would. That's something I constantly am asking for all the time. Any other questions before I go too far?
Well, one wants to know about what's the comparison or the benefit of Illuminate flexible assessments over Edulastic?
You know, the reporting in Illuminate is by far better than what Edulastic has. But I know Edulastic is a little bit more user-friendly. The thing of it is with this, if it's something that you want to connect to other assessments that you want to pull reports on and things like that, all of our data lives in Clovis, lives in Illuminate. So you would automatically have that here. Another benefit of this is after you give an assessment, if you're using the Aries gradebook, you have the ability to take the scores from these assessments and put them into your Q gradebook, which, you know, for me, when I was up at Sierra High School, we were in Aries district. Man, this was a lifesaver because I was giving so many exit tickets out of Illuminate like every day that trying to go back to Aries and add all that stuff, man, it was a nightmare. But then I could just, you know, build my assessment in Aries or my assignment in Aries, run the assessment in Illuminate, and then push those scores in. And that's kind of what you have to do with the Q gradebook. I'll show you where that link's at. I'll have to pop into my wife's account to do that. But once you're done with your assessment, there's a spot where it'll say push to Q gradebook. If you have the assignment built in Q gradebook already, that's the bridge that puts them together, and bam, you can get that in there. That's the other thing. I do know Edulastic probably has more comprehensive item building tools. I don't know off the top of my head, and I think Melissa Culver might be in here, but I don't know if they have the ability to upload a PDF like this either in Edulastic.
And then as we're comparing here, Deborah has a question about how does it compare to Formative, which does the score and connects with Google Classroom?
So Go Formative is pretty cool because you can actually put it right above the question and things like that. And so it is something similar to that. The biggest thing, once again, is that if you want that data to live somewhere where you want to monitor how students are doing in an easier fashion, then all that data can be in Illuminate, have pre-built reports that you can pull up things. I mean, there's pivot tables where you could give a pre-assessment, give a post-assessment, and then it'll show you what kids grew, what kids didn't grow. You can click on things. It'll give you a list of students. So it's beyond just giving the assessment and getting a score. It's giving the assessment, getting the score, but then getting stuff that helps drive my instruction. I think Illuminate is super polished on that front. But the other two are still great products. And by all means, I'm not saying, don't use those to use this. This is just another option that you have. If you're comfortable with the other one, by all means, use it. If your students are successful, that's all that matters to me. And so, that's just the difference there is the reporting and that ability to put it in your Q gradebook.
One last question here. Are you going to show them how they can upload their own assessments into Illuminate?
As far as from within this, or like another one that's not, because this is the only way to upload an assessment into Illuminate. You can't upload via the item bank. You can do it in Flexible, but it's the same kind of idea as this right here. But as far as just taking an exam view test or a iReady test and things like that and just saying, hey, I want to import it in, you can't do that. You'd have to go through here and build the answer document that matches with this. And I'll show you how to do all that right now from within this.
Okay, thank you, Tony. That answered all the questions right now.
Okay. So I'm going to come back and look at this. Now, notice that this one here is 4 questions or 4 possible answers, but in my flex, it's defaulted to 5 and it's multiple choice. And so all I have to do here is I can just come in here, click this drop down, and it's already got some built for me. All I have to do is click A, B, C, D there, and then I can come in and I can put my answer in there, which is D, and boom, that question is done. Okay. And then I can go into question number 2 now, and question number 2 on my assessment was, 5 choices, so I'm lined up pretty good right there. And so now all I have to come back here and do for multiple select is go in and select those, and in this case, the correct answers are A, B, and C. Now, if I want to make this 3 points, I can. So all I have to do is come in here and change that to 3. Just know that by default, the multiple select follows the same guidelines as the state, where it is all or nothing, okay? Now, if you want to give partial credit, you can. It's just a little bit different choice here. So if I come back to this, in this drop down, I can always come back in and change these, and there's a myriad of choices that you have. But if I want to make this partial credit, I can come into multiple choice partial credit, and now you see that it's changed a little bit. I can still come in here and do A, B, and C as my 3 correct answers, but now there's this little green slider over here that says deduct for incorrect selections. And basically what this does is it makes a +1, -1 relationship between the correct answers and the incorrect answers. So if a student gives me A, B, and C, and I change the weight of this to 3, it's going to give me 1 point for A, 1 point for B, and 1 point for C, which is the full 3 points. But let's say a student came in and they chose A, B, and E. Well, now they'll get 1 point for A, 1 point for B, and then they lose a point for E. All right, and so it just kind of it just takes that 1 point away from the total. They can't ever go into the negatives. Okay, so you can't get a negative answer or anything like that. It stops at 0. But if they happen to select all the choices, they would still they would get 0 because they get 1 because it would balance it out, and the -2 would still give them that 1 point. So it's just something to know about. If you turn this slider off, it still does partial credit, but now it's going to do just whatever ones they put in there that are correct. It gives them a point. So if a student chose A, B, C, D, and E, they'd get 3 points because they chose them all. If they just said A and B, they'd get 2 points because they chose those 2. So it just depends on how you want to roll. If it's a 4 answer choice and 3 of them are answers, I wouldn't do partial credit. I just leave it as is, because then it doesn't work as good as you would think. So that's how you would do that for that. Now the explicit constructed response, which is question number 3, this is where it goes back to that question of spacing and things like that. So for example, if the answer is 14 bags and I just put in 14 like that, if a student puts in 14 right now, they're going to get 1 point for that, but the student may also put in 14 bags. So I just hit add alternative, and I'll come in here now and I'll put 14 bags. Let's say a student didn't put a space. I have to include that in if that's something that I'm willing to give them credit for. So if they went 14 bags like that, and you want to give them credit for that, then you would program that in. Oh, maybe a kid will put a capital for bags, so I want to go 14 bags. And so all of these things that I want to give, would be willing to take credit for, I want to try to include those in, because that's what it's going to look at. Okay, it's not like the state test where they have like the space ability to cut that down. In the item bank, that ability is there, but it is not here yet. One other little pro tip I'll give you guys is, let's say you wanted to have the ability to give them a half point when you go in and go back. If you want to look at this and be like, okay, well, they kind of got it right, but they got it wrong, but I want to at least give them a half point. Build one answer in that has the ability to have a half point into it. So let's say, if you were only wanting to give them a half point for putting in 14, program that into the score. And then when they get 14, it'll automatically score that. But let's say there was something else that you wanted to go in and give them a half point that you didn't think about, then at least that is available in your drop down of scoring. And I'll kind of show you what that is before we go. So constructed response, this one's super easy to put together. All you've got to do is decide what your rubric is. And so within that rubric, I can hit this drop down, and you'll see that I have a list of 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, all the way there. And if I don't see what I want and I want to go up to 9 choices, I can go up here and hit edit. And now you can see that I can edit my multiple choice selections as well and build my own. Or I can come in here under my user created and I can come down to my rubric and I can hit add choice. And now I can come in and I can start to say, okay, I want to add my own rubric here. And I can come in and, oops, I can say, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 9's the highest it goes still. And all I have to do now is hit that checkbox. And now you can see that that's added in. The slider is now turned on, so it'll be one of my choices. If I'm never going to use a 7-point rubric, I could hit that slider, and now it won't show up in my choices anymore. And it's saving up here on the right, and then I could just X that out, and now I could come into this, and I could scroll down, and there is my 9 choices there. And so basically, you don't have to put any numbers in here. This just allows you to put that rubric score up a little bit higher if that's what you were going to do. You can also come back, and this one is only worth 2 points, so I can just drop it back down to that. Now my 5A and my 5B, let me go back and look at this. I believe that those were just 4 answer choices. So I'm going to come back here, change this to 4. Even if I wanted to make this the F, G, H, and I to continue it on, I can do that. But I could put that right there, and my answers to those are D and C. Sorry, I had to look at my notes. And pretty much that's the logic of it. Any questions now, Mary, before I get into how to upload materials and things like that?
What are your paper options?
Great question. So paper options. What's cool about paper options is if you wanted to do bubble sheet, what this allows you to do is in multiple choice is automatically going to have the amount of bubbles and things like that. This one will not work with paper options. If you want something like this where it's just a single answer, you would just change it to constructed response. And then you would just click this drop down here where it says paper options. And the size default, you can come in here, you can have it be 1 line, 4 lines, 8 lines, or a full page. And this will make the answer document have a grid that had that many lines on it. So if it was just a one answer thing, you could just come in here, put 1 line, and then you could have it just be a rectangle. Let me go 2 line. Let me do 4 lines here. Or you could have it be gridded to where now it's going to have a box with 4 lines in it. Or for my math folks out there, if you wanted to do a printed version of this and you wanted to have a graph, you could do this, and it makes a nice little grid there for you that you could do some graphing with. So it just depends on how you want to administer the test, but this is not available at home. You would have to, this would be more of a, or I mean, you could send it home to them, but this would be a thing where they're going to do this in class. The only thing about the paper options is as you start to add in some of these things, it makes that answer bubble sheet really kind of expand out to where one test may have multiple answer documents that are connected to one student. Good news is you can mix them all up, whatever stack you put them in, throw them under your doc camera or take them up to the printer, scan them all in, and it'll automatically mesh the kids based on their student IDs back together again. So this just makes this for that, for those larger questions, gives you the ability to have that adjusted on the answer documents. Any other questions there?
No, you're good to go.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I just got one. Is there a limit to how many questions the test can have?
Nope. So the mass add will only allow you to add 25 at a time, but you would just add your 25 and then add another 25. And then, if you needed to go up even higher, you could definitely do that. So, I mean, it's not hard. You can always come down here if you wanted to add a bunch. So if you wanted to add a bunch in a flash, you just click right here. And that brings that little document back up there, and you can get, add in 25 more, hit add, and it will automatically bring those in. If you wanted to just add one question, go ahead.
Some would like to see you do that right now so that they can actually visualize that.
Sure. So I'll say I'm going to add in 10 more multiple choice, and then I'm going to add in another 15 of the explicit constructed response. And then I hit add, and it'll tell me it's working. And there it is. Super simple, much easier than what it used to be. And now if I wanted to go back in and delete all those back out, I can just come up here and I can just click that bubble. It's going to select them all. And then now I'll just come up here and deselect the ones that I want to keep. And then I can hit delete. Yep, I'm sure. And now those are gone again. So lots of freedom with this. So now that I've got kind of the shell of my answer document put together, there's just a few other tidbits that I want to go through. Now, I did talk about how good the data is from within Illuminate. And one of the things you have the ability to do is attach standards to these tests. And so if I want to attach standards to the test, I have my scope and standards selector here, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get rid of all of these ones that I already have saved from when I was building it before. So it remembers whatever you're doing with the time before. So I can come in here and I'm just gonna come back to my provider and I'm gonna uncheck that, and that should get rid of everybody. So when you come in here, this is the first thing I'll share this important thing with you. When you guys are building, you're always gonna wanna go, if you're math or ELA, you're gonna wanna go with Common Core state standards and select those. There's national, I mean, there's a ton of standards. Some of these we may not see in ours as far as like other states might be in here. Remember, I'm in a demo site, but NGSS is definitely in there. There's some other district stuff that's been uploaded. But in the California, this is where whenever I was training across the country, this would be a spot where teachers would hone in on, oh, hey, I'm in California. I should come in here and click Common Core content standards. Remember, those are only the ones that California said, hey, you guys don't teach enough. Here's some additional standards as well. Those are in here. So they're not tested on the state test or anything like that, but they are in here. If you're science or social science and you want some of the older content standards, those are under content standards there. But just kind of scroll through this list and you should be able to find standards depending on subjects. That's one thing I didn't say. This flexible assessment works with any subject that's out there because it doesn't matter. As long as you get a PDF in there, you can match it up with anything. So foreign language could use it, CTE could use it, science, history, everything, not just math and ELA, okay? So once I've got Common Core state standards selected, I just come over here to subjects. I've got I'm gonna get my ELA standard first, and I'm in grade level 4. So let me just get to grade level 4 here. And now it's going to bring in all of my grade level 4 standards. And so I'm just going to come over here where I have it written down as this is RI. And then let's see, yeah, got 4.4. So there it is right there. I just select that bubble and bam, now this standard is going to be available for me to add to my test. Then I'm going to come back to subjects and I'm going to shift over to math now. Go grade level 4 again. Don't ever pick introduction. That's just the big old long explanations that the state puts for each of the math standards. And then for that, I'm just going to come back to my search over here again, and I'm going to put OA.A. And the ones I have on my test are 1 and 3. And you'll see up here in the corner, it's working and saved. And so now all I have to do is X out of this, super easy. Notice everything kind of pops up, but you don't have to go forward or back or anything like that. It's all right there for you. And now you'll see up here in the blue, it says my standards are attached to the test. Now I just have to attach them to the questions. And it's really, really easy to do. So if you have a good blueprint for your assessment already, you can come down, you can come in here and I can select these two like I did before. And now down here, it's going to pop up that little bar across the bottom. I can hit edit real quick. And where it says standards right here, I can come in here. Oops, that's question group, long one. I can hit standards, and now I just need to, these are my OA.1. I can select that, and then I can hit apply changes. Yes, I'm sure. And now those standards are attached to that. Then I can come to my next two, and these are my OA.3. Come in here, hit edit again. Click on standards, grab my OA3, hit apply changes. Yes, I'm sure. Bam, And then now I can come to my last two, which are my reading, hit edit, click on standards, grab my reading standards, hit apply changes. Yes, I'm sure. Now, question groups is another thing I would say, look at that PDF, because this is a way to make the data do what you need it to do, as far as you can create your own kind of breakdown of the data. This was one of the most powerful tools that I found in Illuminate, and why I love it so much was because of question groups and the ability to make the data do what I want it to do. You'll notice when I click question groups, there's a bunch of different things here that have been saved along the way that I can say, hey, this question has to do with just adding for these equations, or and then I could say, all right, so this one is that, and this one is that as well. And now I can grab that again. And now it's going to take the data for those two questions, and depending on how the kids did, it's going to flood that into that bar graph as well, and just kind of let me know how are my kids doing on adding and subtracting integers. So pretty nifty. And like I said, what's great about Illuminate is it takes it from just a scored test to a score with actionable data. Okay. And that's kind of my big thing is, how can I use that data? So you'll see that this turned blue, which means I took care of it, but I also need to upload my materials, which I have not done yet. And so when this is blue, that means you're good to go. So I need to get the materials in there, so that way when the student takes the test, they see this as well. So let me come back to this now, and I'm just going to hit upload materials. And I can click right in here and it'll open up my drive. And then here is my demo PDF, and I can hit open. You can also drag it in there. You can also click Google Drive and bring it in as well. And so it's going to say success, and now I can see it right down here. If there was a key that I wanted to share with my colleagues and things like that, or a lesson plan that I wanted to go with this, I could also import those things into this, and when I share it, that's going to go with it. And so now I have that in here, and then as long as it's green, that will be the one that students see. If I want to preview what that's going to look like, as far as just what the document is that I brought in, I can click right there. If I want to download it, I can. If I want to delete it, I can. And now all I have to do is hit X here. And now you'll see that I have materials here in blue. And so I'm good to go. If you wanted to preview your test here real quick, I could come over here and click preview. And now it's going to open this bad boy up. I could hit begin test. And now I can see my test just to make sure that it's matching up the way I want it to. So far, so good. There's my constructed response question. There's my 5A and my 5B, and there's my 5A and my 5B. So it's just a way to double check before you're finished. You also have the ability to do some other settings here, but I'm just going to hit done. So when you're done, it's real simple. Hey, I'm done. You just click done. And now from here, it will prompt you to be able to print it or give it online. Now, so you guys can see what that paper option looks like. I'm going to click paper this first time. And I'm going to grab a student here. So let me grab my boy Sirius. And I'm just going to hit generate here. And it's going to give me a PDF of this. So you can see now here is my 5-question test, and here's that grid. Now you can adjust these answer sheets to go more of a column, and it'll shrink that grid down. If you do the 8 lines, it'll give you an 8x8 grid, or an 8x8 that goes all the way across here. It's kind of big, but you could partition it out and just have the kids use a smaller portion. But that's what it would look like for the actual printed answer document. Okay, any questions? I know I've been going fast, Mary, to stop things real quick here.
You are doing great.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's so fun because I was watching you at Sierra when you learned how awesome Illuminate was when you were working with your lower class and we're tired of doing the exit tickets. It's great.
Yeah, and the ability to give my students instant feedback was a game changer, which we're all getting more used to that. I mean, we're talking 7 years ago that I was able to give amazing feedback to my kids, and it just completely changed my classroom dynamic. I'm going to go ahead and click online now so I can show you guys how to bring in that equation editor and then what it looks like. So if I switch on online now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys this because many of you may not know that you have this, and Google Classroom was something that came up. But I'm going to go ahead and click test with quick code. And so with this is different than going through the kids portal. This one actually, the kids could get online and take the test right now. All I would need to do is be able to give them this code right here. But what's cool about this is you could take this and copy it and then paste that into your Google Classroom. And then what it'll do is when the kids go to Google Classroom and they click on that link that you've provided them there, it will take them here with the code already there, and then all they have to do is go in and put in their ID, and they would be able to get in here and take this test. So if I put in Sirius's test code, that would allow me to do that. Before I do that, though, just so you guys can see what this looks like on the student end, I'm going to go ahead and put his information in there, and then I'm going to come back to my roster so I show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to just close this out. But, I mean, that's really nice is you can get kids in pretty fast. For my secondary folks out there that want that control on cheating and you have multiple periods and you don't just want to have this assessment open all day, you can click test with quick code multiple times. And this is what I used to do in my class is I'd click this multiple times and get 3 or 4, depending on how many preps I taught of that subject, get 3 or 4 codes all at once and come back in, and let's see, I could come into this, and I'm going to go to the original one that I did here, and I'm going to hit edit. And what I can do is I can go into my online testing tool settings, and what I can do is, for the math equation editor, it's under online testing tool center settings. I can come down here to where it's math equation editor, and I can come in here, and it's disabled right now, and now I have a choice of 3 calculators. So I can do a 3 to 5, 6 to 8, or high school, and it'll add more options depending on what grades they're in, kind of like the state supplied calculators when they take the state test. So in this case, it's a 3 to 5 questions that I have built into that. So I just select 3 to 5, and now when I hit save, that's going to open that up, and I'll show you guys what that looks like here in a moment. But for my secondary folks, if I have multiple times that I want to give this and I want to control when I'm giving it, if I click on online testing administration settings, I can come in and I can select daily window, and now I can say, all right, my prep 1 of math 1 is 8:30 to 9:30 that I want to give them the access to this test. And then I could change that. So now this code PPWYR5 or W5 is only going to work from 8:30 to 9:30. And so now I have a little bit more control there. I can also set a time duration. So we can limit the phone a friend effect by saying, hey, you've only got 30 minutes. Once this test starts, it's going to go. Or once this format assessment starts, it's going to go, and we're going to finish it up. I can just come in here and I can put that in. Once they start it, bam, it's going to roll. And so then I can come back and I can hit save here now. Let me get rid of that. I can hit save, and then it's going to launch that. And notice that it's saying saving down there on that one. And then I would come into my next one here. And notice it's also got a time for me so I know which code is which. It says 8:30 to 9:30 there. I could come in, hit edit on the next one, and now I can go into administration settings again and change this to my daily window of now this is my next prep, which is going to be from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. And now this code, TN blah, 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 would only work during that time frame. I'll come into my tool settings, hit disable, or change it from disabled back to my calculator here, hit save. And now this one will resave, and now it's going to have that time frame of only 10:30 to 11:30. Okay. So now let me log in with Sirius real fast so you can see what that looks like on that equation editor. So I hit confirm, log in. Oops. What happened here? That's not cool. Oh, I put that time frame in there. Let me fix that. What time is it? 10:30? All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's going to get mad at me now. There we go. So let me put that back in here. Well, at least you got to see that it does work. And I couldn't get in outside the time frame, so I guess that's a bonus. All right. So now I can come in here, hit begin test. And now down here for question number 4, you'll see that there's the equation editor symbol here coming up. I just click that, and then now it's going to give me the scientific calculator that I could go in and I could start to put some things in. So if it was, 4, and then I could do an X. why wouldn't it let me put the x in there? Well, I could do the square root of 4 minus 9 and get no solution. And then I could just hit save equation and it'll pop it in there for you. Okay, so that's how that one works. And I've never tried this. Nope, won't let me paste it in there. So I was hoping that maybe I could just have one there and paste it in there for you guys that wanted to do that, but I think it would misscore it anyways, but it won't let me do that. But anyways, I mean, that is flexible in a nutshell on what it looks like as far as, building one of those, assigning it online. Now let me show you kind of the end of it with the one that I assigned earlier. So if I come back to, Mary, any questions real quick before I move forward? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think I got about 10 minutes left.
No, I think you're fine. I think I don't know if you even have a Google Classroom, but I would think that somebody'd want to see. You probably don't have time to do that, where they would assign this.
I might be able to get there. I just have to get back into my. I think I'm in my Illuminate account on here, so I didn't have to share stuff. Yeah, I can show that. I have a basket weaving Google class that I could drop it in there.
Thank you, Tony. There's no other questions, right?
Okay, so once I'm here, if I want to go back in, and what's cool here is in your Illuminate tile page, everybody should have this one called constructed response now. And what's really cool about this one is I've given that assessment, and now I'm like, okay, I know there's those questions that I got to grade. Oh my gosh, how do I go there and do that again? Well, now it's even easier. Notice there's a 1 here. It'll give me a list of all my assessments if I had more than one, but once I click this constructed response, it's going to go to Sirius's test that he took, because he was my only student that I have, and it's going to take me right to the spot within my CUSD Flex assessment, and it's going to take me to where my constructed response answers are at. And so in this question, now this one says 14 bags because this is different than the one I created. I only put in the answer 14 when I originally created this. So notice that there isn't another set of answer choices here. It would show 14 bags, all of those, and it would kind of go through and show you the one that's marked correct. So it's not in there correctly. If I wanted to go in and give him credit, I could go in there and give him the credit for that right there and fix that for him. Even though it came across as he got it wrong, I have the ability to go in there and fix that. And notice that on this drop down, I only have a 0 and a 1, is because I never gave it one of my answers a 0.5 value. So if I'd given one a 0.5 value, 0.5 would be a choice for me to give to students in this case. So notice that it jumped to question number 3. It didn't go into question number 2 or question number 1. It jumped right past those. It's only going to take me to those ones that I can review, or I need to review, or that I want to go in and score. And now all I have to do is click the next button, and it's going to load up Sirius's essay question that he did. Let me move my Zoom thing. And now it's going to have, what he typed in. I can come in here and I can highlight that, and I can say, oh, yep, that's kind of unclear, what that is. I can come down here to the bottom, and I can even say, more things for the students. And then in their student portal, they'll be able to go in and see your comments and things like that. So this is where you would go in there and grade that. Let me fix this real quick, and I'm going to give him a 1. And so now that's saved in there, and so I can come back to my assessment. And now you'll see your donut of death. I can click on that. This will spread out by colors. Like I said, you'll see a list of kids and how they did. They'll have a performance band attached to that. You'll see that I have some standards in here. So if I come to the next page, which is performance, you can see on how students are doing on the standards. As this spreads out, it'll start to put that in. So notice that it's light colored, it's not mastered. I abacadabaed the test. So, he definitely did not do well. You can come into response frequency, see how they did here, which questions I got right, what answer choices. So if I was looking for, distractors that kids were picking, it automatically breaks up what answer choices they were picking, how they did on those rubric style questions. So, the data you get just built into these is unbelievable. The last piece is for Q Gradebook, and it won't show up here, but and this is not an option we have right now, but right here, it's going to say link to Q Gradebook, not link to Gradebook. This links to the Illuminate Gradebook, but in our system, it says link to Q Gradebook, and you would click on that, and then there are some steps that you go through. I'll go back and I'll attach the video on how to do that to the slide deck right here, and that way you guys have access to that. But once again, the way I did that, to get back to this, is I clicked on this. Now notice there's no more 1 there. It's because I went in there and I graded those constructed responses, so now that is gone. But I could go in here, I could click that. It would take me to a list of assessments if I have multiple assessments that I need to fix, or just that one that I know that I need to get in there and grade, and it would walk me through that. Naming conventions is something I talked about at the beginning. So I have a tile in here called CUSD, and when I click on that, it runs a search for me to only show my CUSD assessments. And so here's my CUSD Flexible PD 2021 version 2.0, which is the one I built today. Notice it prompts me right here to the online testing. So if I wanted to set this up for online testing, I could do that from right here. Once data starts to come in, bam, it's good to go. So let me go back to this, and let me grab this real quick. All right, let me get over here real fast. Actually, okay.
So the question is, right now, this would link to our grade books, correct?
Yes, once students are starting to populate and things like that, and we're getting all of our kids in, it will do that. And if you're a secondary teacher, you just repeat for each class. So all your data compiles together, but you would just go in and say, okay, 3rd period, set it up, push it across, boom. Then you go rinse and repeat for 4th period, and it'll send the right kids to the right scores. You just have to do it for each period 4 times, but it's better than entering 180 times. You just have to move it 4 times. If you're an elementary school teacher and you give a reading writing test, and you want the score to go to both of those grade books, because you have separate grade books for each of those ideas, you just have both assignments built in each of those Q grade books, and then just push it twice to each of those grade books. I can go into my account and throw it up real quick so you guys can kind of see that. But now I'm at my classroom, and I can come into my basket weaving class, and I can go to classwork here. Let me move my Zoom stuff, and I can hit create, and I can go, quiz assignment, or I'm just going to go, here, and then I'm, Flex 101. Helps if I click in the box. Come in here, now I hit add link. Pop that in there. There we go. And now all a student has to do is come in here, click that. And then they would put in, in our case, for our kiddos, they would just put in Tony Bedella 001 or whatever it happens to be. And bam, they're in there to take that test. And that's all there is to it. Super easy. Okay, go ahead.
A couple of questions here. So let's say that once you made your test and we've got a lot of kids missing the same question, would it be possible then to revise the test, delete that question? I mean, not revise it, but delete that question from your final scoring?
Yes,
so that when you look at your data, it's not part of it?
Yeah, so what I would recommend you do in that case, and so let me just show this real quick, and then
okay.
Here's the push to Q gradebook. Like I said, I'll add this in there, but basically it walks you through. You build the assignment in your Q gradebook first, then you come in, and when you're ready to go, you click your assignment, you give your assignment, and then once you have those scores in there, you'll go to administration, or under administration on either a hybrid or an item bank or the flexible, which is what we did today. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. And then now I just click right here where it says push to Q gradebook, or in the drop down push to Q gradebook. If that's there, don't click on that one. And then now here's what it looks like is the next step. So basically it'll show your name here. So this is linked to my wife's classroom. It'll show your name here, and then you just come in here, and this is where you grab the assignment from your gradebook. So when you click that drop down, it's going to show every single assignment in your Q gradebook. And so you pick the one that you've already made ahead of time, and then you select your gradebook, And then the next step is you find the assignment that you've already created in Q gradebook. So this third one will be a list of everything in your gradebook. And then you just, overall score is the only option you have, hit submit, and bam, those scores will go in there. A couple of caveats here, and make sure you read this real quick. Don't ever repush unless you haven't changed scores in Q gradebook to something else, because it's going to overwrite whatever's in there each time you push. So if the scores aren't going to really change for any kids, then you can push multiple times into the same gradebook. But if I pushed it once and then I went in and edited a score in my Q gradebook and I push this again, it's going to take from what's in Illuminate and go over what you're putting into Q gradebook. So just be careful of that. And then, weighting and things like that, you won't be able to do that from the Illuminate side. Push the overall score into Q gradebook, then you can go in and make the adjustment on the Q side. All right. Okay, so what was the question again, Mary? About deleting, right?
Right. Okay. So you're wanting to look at your results, but as you're looking, you're seeing that a lot of kids missed one question, so you don't want to count it in the scoring.
Gotcha. So the way I would approach that is, let me get to the right one here. The way I would approach that is I would come into my test here, and let me go back to edit. And right here on the right side is the ability to do extra credit. And so what I would do is I would just check this box and have it be extra credit, because if you delete it out, it sometimes may break the test. But if you put it in as extra credit, you could hide it out, and that would kind of fix some of your data a little bit, if that makes sense. That's my advice to you guys. You can always come back in. And I don't even know if it will allow you. I don't think it does allow you to delete a question if there's data in the test. The best way to go is just by coming back and hitting extra credit. You do that in the item bank too if you ever want to, take off a score on a question that you don't want it to use. All right, just to go back to this real quick. Once again, there's a huge walkthrough right here. Mary, if you would post the link one more time in chat for me. And I can bring up chat right now too.
So is it the original link, the bit.ly link, or do I have to do this one here?
No, you can just do the bit.ly link, and it's right within that as well.
Okay.
Minus this. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so adding standards is huge. Can you add a question to show what happens? Oh, we already did that, so right? Okay.
You're all caught up, Tony.
Okay, perfect.
I do have one advanced math question, but the teacher's going to stay on and talk to you.
Okay.
So it's specific.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you guys have any other questions, I'll come back in and I'll add in a slide about the Push to Q gradebook and a video that walks you through it as well. You only have to watch the first 10 minutes of it. It's like 30 minutes long, but it goes into some other things that deal with Illuminate if you wanted to go and look at those as well. But I'll get those two things added in. But that's flexible assessments.
Oh, we did get one more, and it says, how about extra credit? Is that possible to add? Yeah,
so if you wanted to, so the extra credit, it would give them the score that you originally had put in there if they get it right. If they don't get it wrong, if they don't get it right, then it doesn't do anything.
You did it, Tony.
Okay. Sorry, I'm 3 minutes over. Well, thanks, you guys. Good luck at the school year.
Thanks, you guys.
Oh, my email is on the last slide too. If you guys want to reach out to me, if you have more questions, I'm more than happy to help out. If you want more PD, just let me know. All right.